like to introduce Visa Shanmugam. I hope I pronounced it correctly.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. And Visa is a life and mindset coach, but she didn't start out life like that. It's a very interesting story. I love it. And so please, can you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a bit more about your story?
Absolutely. So I'm Visa. My full name is Visa Lakshi. I'm Indian origin. Grew up in India until I was 11, and then I moved to the UK, lived there for another 10 years, and then I moved to the US. The reason I moved to the US is because I had an arranged marriage, which, is very prevalent in the Indian culture. And I got married very young. I was 21. I was still a baby. And when I moved to the US, I had no family, no friends, nothing. It was like I'd been plucked out of the UK and I'd been plopped into the US. And it wasn't a forced marriage. People hear arranged and they think it's forced. It definitely was not forced. Both of us consented to the marriage, my husband and I. But with any marriage, whether it's arranged or love, it comes with its set of problems and challenges that you don't foresee when you first say yes to the marriage. So, I was in the corporate world. When I was in the UK, I'd finished my undergrad and I'd been working. And I was so happy to quit and move because my dream had always to move to the US. So I had these expectations of what life was going to be like. And when I moved, it was nothing like that. It was nothing like that because of the immigration status. I couldn't find a job. I couldn't even go to another college and study. So my entire life revolved in the apartment we lived in. My husband would go to work and I would spend the whole day counting down the hours to when he would come back again. So I was very lonely and I didn't know at that time how to drive a car in the US. So everything, my whole life came to the screeching halt. And that put an immense amount of pressure on our relationship because I kept turning to my husband to make me happy. He would come home in the evening and, I would expect him, just because he walked through the door, I would expect my mood to lift and it wouldn't, right? And I would blame it on him. And I think as a young child growing up with the Indian tradition, you look to your parents to tell you what happiness is. And so, I lived my life, I got my self-worth from earning my good girl, right? Good girl label because I followed the rules. I was always a rule follower, didn't do anything to upset the rules or my parents. So that's how I earned my validation, my recognition.
Yeah.
So now that I've gotten married, I just kind of transferred that same expectation to my husband. It's like, tell me what to do to be happy.
Yeah.
So it just, we've been married for 17 years. We're super happy, but we went through so much to get to the space we're in. We have 2 kids and a puppy now. But I had to learn so much about myself. And which then taught me how do I show up in a relationship, and I had to quit my corporate job after I had my first baby, which didn't make sense at the time, but I was so unhappy. Only for the last 6 years, I've really experienced true joy and happiness.
Right.
That sounds like such a harsh thing to say.
No, I guess it does. Yeah, I guess it does. Because as you say, you were seeking for that external validation, that external thing. And you're not alone in that, because whether people are looking for someone else to make them happy, or whether they're looking for an object, or if I only had that new car, if I only had that new dress, if I only had, and it is that it's seeking for that, but people don't recognize that it comes from within.
Right.
And I've heard, when I've worked with couples, well, what makes you happy? And they will turn to me and say, I'm happy if she's happy. I want to make her happy. I want to make him happy. And I'm thinking, I don't get this at all, because it doesn't work.
Yes, it took me a long time to realize that my happiness doesn't depend on anybody else but myself. So I had to work on the relationship I had with myself, which I had never done before in my life. I didn't even know what that looked like. I didn't know what was my voice versus other people's voices. I didn't know what were my desires for my life. So I had to work through a lot of that. And that's what I call it the inner work, the inner journey. And the inner journey is what has set me free. And then has let our relationship flourish, because as I have explored my own needs and desires and had the strength and the courage to express that to him, because for a long time I didn't feel brave enough to say those things out loud.
Wow.
For the fear of what if I ask and it probably will not be heard or will not be accepted or will not be given. Then you're in a worse spot than not having asked at all, right? So you have to work through all this stuff, this baggage that you carry around. So once I got happy with myself and I realized I am worthy, I am deserving of incredible things, not from an entitled place, but from a fulfilled place.
Right. And that's very important. Sorry, I want to stop you there.
Yeah.
Because those differences are really important.
Yes.
Entitlement and fulfillment.
Yes, absolutely. Entitlement, I feel like, comes from not feeling enough. And therefore you think, well, if I just get given this, then I'm going to be better.
Yeah.
But fulfillment is the other way around, is I am enough. So it's okay for me to ask this.
Yeah.
That's the big difference. I have never really articulated in that way before, but that just came. So it's been an amazing journey and I wouldn't change it for anything. But it really, getting to know yourself really then allows you to ask for what is it that you want from life, from your relationships, from your career. You don't have that fear of, am I good enough to ask for this?
Yes, and again, my experience of working with people is you say, what is it you want? What makes you the person you are? What do you know yourself? And so many people don't know themselves. They'll sometimes look at me as if I've got a screw loose. You're asking me what?
Yeah.
Who am I? What do I want? Well, yeah, and you think, well, no, what do you stand for? What are your values?
Yeah.
How would somebody describe you? Not as that pretty girl or that handsome guy or whatever else that you think is important. It's all the other stuff, isn't it? But yeah.
We take it for granted that just because we live with ourselves 24/7, that we know ourselves. We don't. It takes time and effort and energy and quiet to get to know yourself.
And people don't like quiet either.
They don't, because all these thoughts start to arise when we're quiet, all these crazy thoughts about ourselves, about others. And so we get busy with the doing, because then that quiets that voice and we think that's what needs to happen. But the more quiet I become, the more still I become, the more answers I receive to the questions I have.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. So you were in the US, you were unhappy. Then what happened?
So we did marriage counseling, and that was probably within the first year of our marriage, which, when I said we are having problems, we need to talk to someone, those words coming out of my mouth felt like such a betrayal in itself. Because you're told, you can't take your problems to someone outside, you just need to fix it within. And these thoughts of what's wrong with us, what's wrong with me. But I did it anyway. I said, if we just carry along like this, I'm not happy. So the beautiful thing about my husband is that he may not like the things. He doesn't like most of the things I suggest in the beginning, but he's always open and accepting. That's a big win for me personally, that I found this man and I married him, and he's changed so much and evolved over the years. The 17 years we've been together, and I love him so much for that. And he said yes to marriage counseling. And that taught us, we didn't know how to fight. We didn't know how to proper fight. So, and along the way.
Well, you knew how to fight, but probably not in a healthy way.
In a healthy way, exactly. Yeah. It was in a very passive aggressive way where you didn't really tell each other what you wanted.
Oh, yeah. Those little snidey comments that sneak out. And you think the other person just might take the hint, but actually they don't. And you still don't feel satisfied because They haven't, and you've made the hint. Why didn't they take it? And yeah, all of that stuff. And it's really quite nasty, isn't it?
Exactly. So we had a big bump in the road where, you know, I was diagnosed with a life-altering autoimmune disease, which then led me to experience depression because, you know, you're being handed this bill of health that says, it's not a clean bill of health. It says you have to learn how to live with this for the rest of your life, which then added even more pressure to our marriage. So, you know, we don't have time to go into all of it, but he said that he would move to the UK for me so that I could be with my family, which I so terribly needed at that time as support. And he quit his career, he quit his job, he gave up the life he had built in the US for the last, you know, 7 to 10 years because he moved here when he was a student. And he said yes. And that's when I thought, I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to be okay. Because it was a lot for him to give up.
That was.
Yeah, and that really brought us closer because I realized, okay, I moved for you to the US, and now you've shown me that you will do the same for me. It's okay, we can work through anything. And so about, you know, a year and a half of moving to the UK, my health was so much better. I just needed that change in my life, you know, to really reset everything. And then after a year and a half, I told my husband, you know what, life in the US was pretty good after all. Let's go back. So we give ourselves the chance to change our mind all the time, right? Like in the beginning of a marriage, I think we have these contracts of this is how you're always going to be. And we change, humans change, and we have to give each other permission to change and have that be okay. Because in the beginning of our marriage, the contract for us was, I love working, I'm going to work forever, right? But then once I had my first child and he was 16 months old, I told him, I don't want to work anymore. I want to be a stay-at-home. And that really upset him. He said, you know, this wasn't part of the deal. You said you'd work. I said, I know. It was a betrayal to both of us because it was a surprise to me as well. But again, I had to honor what felt like my truth and what I needed at the time. And I did it anyway, even though he wasn't too happy. And again, he accepted. So it's you know, a healthy marriage doesn't mean you've never gone through troubles. It's how do you navigate those troubles? How do you listen to each other? What is the baggage that you are bringing into the relationship? What is the self narrative that you are bringing into the relationship that adds to the miscommunication, right? So we had to work through all of that. So I quit. I became a stay-at-home mom. That wasn't working after a while. Then I started my own business. And then I said I needed a business coach, and then I needed a life coach. I went on a spending spree for a few years with no returns, right? Because I was hungry to find out who is Visa, what makes her happy. And every step of the way, I would get this pit in the bottom of my stomach where I'd be like, oh my gosh, what is he going to say? Because I wasn't financially, you know, independent. So I had to obviously consult him. And here's the thing I realized. In the beginning, we would get into huge fights because I was asking him for permission. I would say, I want to do this. Will you let me? And of course, he's going to say no because he doesn't understand what I need or what is the help I'm asking for from professionals. So the only thing he would have a reference point is the investment, right? And obviously, that's a gut punch for everyone because life coaches, they're an investment. They're not expensive, they're an investment. I want to reiterate that.
Yeah.
They're an investment in yourself. And so he would say no. So we'd get into these huge fights and I'd go do it anyway, right? I'd be like, I'm doing it anyway. But as I learned more about me and our relationship, I realized, oh, I'm asking him for permission, not support. It's two separate things, right? I didn't need his approval. I just needed him to know I'm doing this. It would be so much better if I had your support, but I'm doing it anyway.
Wow.
So there's a big difference between asking for permission in a relationship versus asking for support. And a lot of us end up asking for permission without realizing that what we really want is support.
Definitely, because it changes, like there's a shift of power. Once you ask for permission, then you're putting yourself in a lesser position, and you're also you're putting them in a higher position, and they feel that as well, almost
Exactly.
parental, I guess. Yeah.
Exactly.
I know, I
So
don't, and it doesn't fit with me. It's not something I'd want to do. So they're putting in their agenda as well as,
yeah.
the financial part of it. Yeah.
So once I became more empowered about this is what I desire, I'm worthy, I'm enough of what I'm asking for, but you are the one who's going to have to support me financially, but I'm worth it.
Great.
So yeah, it's been amazing. And now, because of all those investments I made in myself, back 4 years ago, it changed my life and it changed my purpose. It changed my mission. And now I'm a life coach. And if I hadn't gone for all those opportunities and really put myself out there and made myself vulnerable as to, I don't really know why I want the thing I want, but it just feels really good to me in this moment, support me. And he did. And now, like, I love the work I do. And this is what now I teach women to go through the same journey that I did.
That's brilliant. That really
Yeah.
is. Yeah, I love that story. I loved it the first time we talked, and I love it. I love it now, and being able to share it with others as well, because that is just, it's that empowerment, isn't it? Being given permission, and we feel we have to ask permission from others because that's how we grew up.
Yeah.
But then well, hold on, that change, we've kind of step into it, as you say, you bring the baggage into the relationship, and it's all the stuff that you knew as a child, and so you just, or other situations.
Yeah, a lot of childhood, I call it trauma. It doesn't have to be major trauma. It could be things like bullying, or maybe, a parent that didn't have a healthy relationship with you. It could be any minuscule number of things that add up to beliefs about your self-worth.
Yeah.
And then once you get into a marriage, you bring that baggage, and your husband might be saying one thing, but you're hearing your dad's voice essentially, and you're making it mean something else entirely.
Yeah.
Right. So I've had to do a lot of what I call inner child healing. And that's part of the work I do with my clients, where I help them connect to that child within you. What did she experience at 6? What did she experience at 7? What memories stand out to you? And what parts of you felt unsafe? Because certain parts of you would have been shut down because you wouldn't have felt safe to express it, because somebody would have said, that's not good enough. You don't do things like that. Who do you think you are? Right? So we would have shut up parts of ourselves down. And so when we get into an argument with our current spouse, we don't hear the thing that they're saying. What we're hearing is, who do you think you are? Keep quiet. You're not good enough. That's what we're hearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that awareness is really important. Like, I still fight with my husband to this day. We still have fights. That's, it's a normal thing in a marriage. But when we fight, I'm able to put space between what is he saying and what am I hearing? It's very different things. What is he saying, but what am I hearing? And how much of what he's saying is the truth, right? Like, he might be saying things like, is that really the truth? You never listen to me. Is that really the truth? It never is, an absolute term, and it's never the case, right? So you have to separate the self-awareness. It's incredible the layers it adds to a marriage.
I think it's absolutely, but just to our lives in the first place.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then to a marriage.
Yes, you're absolutely
every
right.
part of our lives. That self-awareness.
Yeah,
and I think I've done that work as well, and still do on occasions. I can feel that small child on occasions, kind of either being upset or angry or not feeling able to speak up or whatever else it is. And I think just identifying with that and calming her. I still talk to that small child and reassure her that it's okay, and it's really powerful stuff to do, isn't it?
It's extremely powerful. When I first heard of this, it was so awkward. I was like, what? I was like, I had the perfect childhood. Like, I don't need to go back and heal anything. I had a great childhood, but they're all micro traumas. And so when my own life coach led me through my very first inner child meditation and healing exercise, I bawled. I had no idea all of this stuff was inside. And then just a realization of, oh my gosh, this work is life changing. You don't realize it's actually a 7-year-old in the driver's seat of your life and not my 37-year-old self, We think I'm this responsible 37-year-old, but it's not. It's your 7-year-old, wherever that child was when she heard those messages of not being good enough. She's really the one that's in the driver's seat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I'm sure you experience it too, when someone tells their story, and they'll be telling the story of that 7-year-old child, but they're telling it from their adult. And it's then saying, look, hold on a minute, you're viewing it from your adult place, but actually, what was it like for that 7-year-old who's so small and has no power and has all of that? Who do you know who's 7 years old? Would you feel the same way?
Right.
And then when you start getting them to think in that way, it's very, very different.
Absolutely. And I do the meditations where I get your present self to meet your inner child eye to eye, just with your eyes closed, right? Our imagination is very powerful. And I'll ask my client and I'll say, what is one of the most hurtful, painful things you've ever heard said to you when you're a child, right? Or what is something, more than that, what is the one thing that you say to yourself today in the mirror, right? Think of the worst things you say to yourself, like, oh, you're so ugly, like, oh, look at that weight on you, whatever, right? And I'll say, now look into that child's eye and say it.
Yes.
That you cannot bring yourself to say that. And you're like, so why do you think it's okay to say it to yourself today?
Wow, yes. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then I'll say, what is the thing that your 7-year-old self would have given anything to hear, right? What did she yearn to hear other people tell her? For me, it's you're beautiful, right? Because I was always teased for my looks. So I will tell her, you are so beautiful. You are so beautiful in that meditation. And you will feel something shift inside of you, because in the beginning, your inner child will be like, I don't believe you. Like, I don't believe you. You're just saying that. You're just saying that. And then the more you say it and then repeat it, you'll start to see her eyes like tear up, and maybe start to believe that, okay, maybe that is the truth. It's very powerful work. I could talk about it all day.
I can hear that. It's fascinating, and I do think that meditation and visualization it's very powerful, and people kind of dismiss it quite readily. Oh no, I don't do that woo-woo stuff. But you say, okay, I've said just humor me, will you? Just please humor me, okay? And you might think I'm batty or anything else, but just hanging there and then once they realize what it is, it's not about it's once they identify with it and they realize that it's not that way out, they go, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, I used to be the most analytical, logical, rational person, and now I do all of this inner work, and I've completely, what I would say, gone over to the other side, the spiritual, self-love, self-acceptance, very flowy, right? Like my days used to be very structured, very rigid, very productive, and I used to tie my self-esteem to how productive I was each and every day. It was a good day if I had just been super productive. And now I really let myself go with the flow. What is it that I desire today? What does my heart need to feel good? Right. And so if I can make that transition, like anyone can, and we place so much value on just what we can see and touch and feel. And we realize that's maybe 1 or 2% of the actual reality that we live in. There is a whole world of things we don't see and hear, but it exists. It exists. And that's the energetic, the spiritual realm that most of us will dismiss it as, oh, it's so woo-woo.
Yeah.
Right? Because we can't do anything with it tangibly. Yeah, but there is an immense amount of power in being able to connect to our spirit and to our energy and to that woo stuff. I'm a firm believer in it.
Yes, definitely. Wow, that's been really interesting. I mean, talking about your relationship and how that's developed, and how I love that's how that you've asked for, well, yes, you haven't just asked permission, but you've said what you wanted. You've made it clear what you wanted, and not in an aggressive way, or not in a pleading way, but you stated what you needed. And the fact that your husband listened and was prepared to go with you, even though there were times when he was thinking, no, this is crazy, or I don't agree with it, or this wasn't the way, this wasn't in the agreement in the beginning. That is just beautiful. And I think we hear so many stories about arranged marriages that aren't good, but I don't have that belief, because I think that's a forced marriage, which is very different from, well, I know that in your culture that you have huge communities, aunties, uncles, cousins everywhere. I've got a friend who's she's Indian by birth, and whenever I see pictures of her with her family, I mean, you couldn't get them all into the photograph. So therefore, somebody's auntie will know somebody who's got someone else, and because you know that personality, or that you've got a reasonable opportunity of saying, you know what, no, he wouldn't suit her, or no, but that person, that's a possibility, because they know more about the person. And I think that stands just as much amount of chance, if not better, than meeting someone in a pub or at a wedding, or I don't know, on social media, or a dating site. That's got more chance than it has, than one of those, because you've got nothing really.
That's true. I mean, our family backgrounds, our culture, everything is a match. So it's hard enough to make a marriage work, let alone when you bring your, extended families into it, and they have, different agreements on, they view the world differently. Then it adds a whole another layer of pressure. So in this way, our parents have been amazing. We both have incredible sets of parents, and they stay out of things, which has really helped.
Yeah, that's really good as well, because I know. So I don't when I talk to couples, and they say, how many people are in your relationship? Hold on, I feel like metaphorically the room is crammed full of all these relatives who all seem to have an agenda around what's going on. Okay, can we just clear them all out and ask them to leave, because this is about you two? So that's
I've heard of arranged marriages where the parents and the in-laws are getting involved, trying to say, no, my daughter's right, or my son is right, and this is not a right or wrong winning competition. And so in my marriage, and that's the only marriage I can ever talk to, we've never done that. We've never pulled our parents into it. We've never said, oh, he's being so unfair, look at him acting this way. Because then a parent's natural reaction is to support you, right? And then you're asking them to play the role of the good guy, the bad guy as well. So we've thank God, like intuitively, we've just never done that. Now on hindsight, I'm like, thank God we had the foresight to not do that, because that makes things so complicated.
Yeah, it really does. Because
my husband has evolved and changed in this relationship as I have evolved and changed. He's had no choice, right? Because I think as one person changes in the relationship, you have no choice but to change, or you need to leave. You rise up, or you leave. And so as I have risen, he's matched me in every step of the way. Even though he hasn't had his own life coach or anything like that, he's seen how much happier and more full I felt, and how much more confident I've become. And he's then realized, oh, the stuff she's doing is really working. So he's bought into everything, right? The spirituality. I talk about the law of attraction. I'm a huge law of attraction geek, about manifesting. And so I'll share with him every magical thing that I manifested in my life, from a penny that I found that I asked for, right? I'll ask the universe, I just need a penny today. And I'll miraculous way that I found a penny, I'll share it with him. And he's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. You know, so we have that kind of partnership now. Like anything I throw at him, he doesn't bat an eyelid anymore.
That's absolutely delightful. That really is lovely. Oh, so what would you say to somebody who's listening, something that they could put into action now, or, you know, yeah.
So my thing is always introspection, right? So the first question you always ask yourself is, how am I feeling right now? How am I feeling right now? Just be totally honest with yourself. If you just say, I'm okay, that's such a BS answer, because you're not even taking a moment, taking a beat to be honest with yourself. What is even okay? Like, what is that? Just, you know, are you feeling on edge? Are you feeling frustrated? Are you feeling angry at something that's not going well? Are you feeling nervous about the state of the world? Like, be honest with yourself. And that is always the first place to start, by acknowledging, what is it that I am feeling in this moment? The more comfortable you become with naming your feelings and sitting with your emotions, then that's the pathway to getting started, to looking for solutions. Not to fix the feelings, not to fix it. Feelings are not there to be fixed. Feelings are there to be felt, right? And then to ask, what is it that I would rather be feeling? If you're feeling down, okay, you're feeling down, why? Why? Ask yourself, why am I feeling down? What has made you feel down? It could be an accumulation of a lot of things, but start to untangle them. And see, this is why silence is required, because you can't do this on the fly. You can't do this as you're cooking, or maybe you could, but in the beginning, it really takes stillness and silence. And so the questions to ask is, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling that? And what is it that I would rather be feeling? Right? Really 3 simple questions. And for the why, if you're finger pointing at people saying, well, because he did that to me, because my child upset me, because they're not listening to me, well, just know that you're giving your power away when you do that.
Oh gosh, yes, that's one. I so agree with you. No one can make me feel angry. No one can make me upset. No one can make me, no one. If I do that, exactly that, we give our power to somebody else. And no one's going to have my power.
Right.
Once I learned that one, and I remember telling one of my daughters that at the beginning, because she was, and I was almost scraping her off the ceiling because she was so irate. And then she stopped to think about it. You know, it's a hard one, a pill to swallow at the beginning.
Yes.
But yeah, once you realize, well, why would I give my power to somebody else? I might feel that way. I might feel upset, but it's my choice as to how I proceed from there. So
exactly.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. So how can people get in touch with you? An easy way, Visa.
An easy way is find me on Instagram. I love Instagram. I post every day. I'm on Instagram stories, which you get to see behind the scenes of my life. I share my family with you there. And I love it because it feels so intimate, you know, Instagram stories. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. You can find me just under my name, Visa Shanmugam.
Great.
That's the Instagram handle.
Thank you. I will put all your details in the show notes as well, so people can look you up. But thank you so much for today. I really found it really fascinating. So thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. I've loved it. Thank you very much.